Hello, welcome back. It's Pauline again, and here we are with episode 9 of our exquisite quilt program. Exciting, this session, we're going to show you feathers and a lot more different curves and how to actually quilt the tulips and some other lovely designs. So lots to show you. Hope you've done some practice since our last get together. Put any questions up on YouTube. If you've got questions, we want them there so that we can answer them for you, because we're here to educate and do as much as we can to help you be a perfect quilter and how to manage to put your quilts together, quilt as you go. Just take this away. But this time we're going to be doing A1 to start with. If you're going to follow through with what I'm doing, this one is E4. Okay, nice feathers. Then we're going to be doing C4. So the first two, we got the designs from the feather pack, and this one is from the dot to dot pack. And then we're going to work on B3, and this is from the template set F. This was from the tulip template. So I just want to show you how easy these can be to quilt. But just a little, another little hint that I want to introduce you to in this episode. Get yourself 2 rubber door stops, okay, from the hardware store. I don't want you to have pressure on your shoulders. Put these underneath the machine. If you've got a big extension table, sometimes the legs on extension tables, you can wind them up. If you've got a big extension table, wind the back legs up, leave the front ones as they are, because you want your extension table to be perfectly flat with the tray of your machine, and then your mat will go out over it. If you have an extension table and you can't wind the legs up, just buy 4 rubber door wedges. Put 2 under your machine and 2 under the legs of your extension table. But what this does, it sits you in a much better posture, because I see people in classes and that, where I go teaching and that, they're sitting over the machine. We get all of this pressure built up in our shoulders and our neck, and we can't sit at the machine for too long. I want you to sit with perfect posture. So tilting the machine forward and not having to pressurize our fabric down like we would for free motion quilting, because when we're pressurizing the fabric down and we're sitting like this quilting, we're wearing all the pressure ourselves. So 2 rubber door wedges, and remember in the last episode I asked you to use angel fingers. So we're going to just hold the fabric nicely at the front, or just light fingers on it so you can maneuver this under the machine. And this is how we should sit and quilt. We shouldn't be leaning over like this, even with any sewing. So just take this on board. Go to the hardware store, buy those rubber door wedges. So we're going to now start with A1. This is going to get a little bit more challenging for you. So this is where you may need to practice how much pressure are you going to have to take off the foot to be able to come around these curves. We are going to be sewing back over previous rows of stitching all the time. So this is where you need to get your eye in to make sure that you're going slow and that you're going to be able to stitch back on that previous row of stitching. If you've drawn your feathers up and you've got really small feathers, you may need to reduce your stitch length down a bit, because you don't want too big of a stitch length, because as you come around a tight curve, it's not going to sit there nicely. So experiment with what you want that stitch length to be as you come around different curves. Don't be afraid to adjust. When we finished the last episode, I had my pressure dial set to 9 because I was doing those tighter clammy shells designs, doing tighter things. So I had to take a little bit more pressure off because the curve was tighter. So I'm going to start on 9. It may be too much pressure off, it may not be enough, but I will just work through it as I go. I have got my machine set up with my knee lift control. Now, a lot of machines these days come with a lever that attaches into the side of the machine, and what it does, just put my pressure foot down, what it does, I just hit it with my right knee and it lifts the foot off the fabric. See that? So I can be stitching along and doing that. But it becomes a little bit of a problem because we're usually sewing with our right foot. I don't sew with my right foot. I sew with my left foot, always. I always have my foot pedal of my machine sitting directly under the needle because that's where I'm centered. I'm centered right under, looking straight at the needle. Now, I think most of us would normally sew with our right foot because the cord control comes out on the right side of the machine. We drive our car with our right foot, and our foot pedal for our machine is just like an accelerator in the car. I find that my left foot sits me with a much better posture. It allows me to use my knee lift, and it also controls the speed of my needle much better. I find our right foot is too educated and we can be sewing too fast. And if you don't have a machine where you can slow the speed of your machine down, using your left foot will control the speed of that foot pedal better than your right foot ever will. Now, I'm going to hear so many of you say to me, oh, I can't do that. I can't sew with my left foot. Give it a go. Don't think about what your foot's doing. Think about what you're quilting. Let's focus up here, not down there. And I think you'll really enjoy starting to sew with your left foot compared to your right foot. And certainly your posture will be much better because when we put our foot on the foot pedal, our right foot on the pedal, we're actually twisting our spine slightly. And that builds up all of that pressure and pain that we get in the back of the shoulders and neck. So that's just a few little tips in this lesson. But we're ready to start sewing. Are you ready to start doing your feathers? So get organised. I'll lift this pressure foot. I'm going to start at the base of the spine, right down the bottom. Okay, I've got my stitch length because these are a bit open feathers, so I've still got my stitch length at 3 on my machine, but remember, you may need to adjust yours. We're going to sew up to the first feather. Stop with your needle down, come around the first shape. You should just hear your machine purring along nicely. We're coming around the curve, just slow down. Just rotate your fabric. See how easy it's pivoting under that needle? Because I've got the right amount of pressure off. I'm just going slow so you can follow me. I'm going to stop right on that previous row of stitching. I'm going to pivot this around and I'm going to sew. Now what I'm going to do as an example so you understand what the pressure dial does, I'm going to put full pressure back on as if I was normal sewing. So I'm going to put my machine back to 70. Touch the button, bring it up to 70. And I'm using this little dial. This is what I love, this little dial. This is why I bought this machine. But if you were ever in a market for a machine and didn't want to pay expensive for a machine, the Bernina, which is a baby Bernina's, they have exactly this screen. Much cheaper machine for those that can't have the budget to fit a more expensive machine. I forget what I paid for this. It wasn't outrageous. Love it. It's the Bernina 570 QE is the machine I use. And I've said that to you because I know some of you are going to ask me. So just putting it out there. So I'm now back to 70. Now I'm going to try and come around these curves. As I do this straight part of the curve, it's going to be okay. But this is where it all starts to go wrong. Can you see how it's all starting to bunch up as I come around? See that? It's all bunching up. That is because there is too much foot pressure down on the fabric to allow the feed dogs to feed it through evenly. Now I'm going to come back down to 9, just slide it down, oops, come down, oops, there it is, lock it in. Now I can now sew around that curve without any of that puckering happening, and it just slides through beautifully for me. And I don't get any of that nasty puckering. Stop, pivot around. Now I'm going to come back up on that row I've just stitched. This was the row I've stitched. Now I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to come back around here. Then I'll come over to the next feather, come back up here, come back over the previous row of stitching there and come up the spine to the next one. Around, back over the previous row of stitching. So let's just do that. This is where you take your time because you want stitch for stitch. You notice that I'm only quilting with one hand. Not to skite, but just to show you how relaxing and easy it is. This mat makes all the difference. And as you get better at this, you're going to get faster. You notice I'm not getting any puckering. It's all just sitting there beautifully for me. Come back down to that previous row. Back down. Stop. Pivot around. If you want, you can lift your pressure foot, but it's not necessary. If you've taken the right amount of pressure off, you don't have to. So I haven't as yet used the knee lift. I'll use that a bit later on because I'm not needing to lift the pressure foot up at all. Come down. Slow down. Pivot back up this previous row. If you run off the line, it doesn't, don't be too bothered about that, because remember, if you use the bowhin fabric marking pencil and you press really lightly, you'll be able to erase off that little line where you missed, or when you wash the quilt, it'll wash your quilt, it will wash out. So that is how we do the feathers. Pivot around. We'll come around this one. Doesn't matter where you go. Remember, you can always stitch over. Like a lot of people say, oh, we've been told we shouldn't stitch over previous row of stitching. I would never do that if I was entering a quilt in a big competition. But if we're just doing quilts for ourselves and for our family, I don't see why we can't do that, and that's why I chose to use the threads that I use, because you don't see that extra row of stitching on the back when you use the beautiful monopoly thread. So that's why I've introduced you to the tools that I love to use. It took me a long time to find the right things to make this work for me, but I find I'm very happy with the way it does work. So we're coming back over a previous row. Round the curve. Slow down. And you should just hear your machine purr along as if it's normal sewing. It's nothing like free motion quilting. If I was free motion quilting, I'd have all this pressure on. I'd be sitting really hunched over the machine, because when you free motion quilt and you've dropped those feed dogs down and put the hopping foot on, if you don't keep pressure on your fabric, there is no pressure, and your fabric and your needle just goes everywhere, and you can't keep control of it. That's why I've called this technique control quilting. It's simply learning what our sewing machines can do for us. It's not as easy to quilt like this if you're quilting on a big quilt, but I didn't design it for big quilts. I designed it for Quilt As You Go quilts. So now I'm going to hop over to some of these smaller pieces just to show you what we can do. Just cut these threads. So you just continue going right up that feather till you got that completely done. But we're going to go over to some of these smaller intricate parts, and I'm just going to start here just so I can show you. So I'm going to reduce, my stitch length was on 3 for that bigger feather. I'm going to reduce it down to about 2.5. And as we come around here, I'm going to see if I've got enough pressure off. What's going to happen here? So it's not puckering yet. It's coming around beautifully. Coming around beautifully. There you go. I didn't have to take any more pressure off, but you may have to. But if you're using a knee lift, like when you get to here and you feel that your fabric could be puckering a bit when you go to try and turn it around, just use the knee lift. Can you see how using my right knee, I'm lifting that off the fabric, pop it back down. So as I come around this curve, I can lift the knee lift. I can lift. I don't need to because the machine's going to come around here beautifully. But if you're challenged, use the knee lift. Because if I was having to lift my pressure foot all the time as I come around those curves, it'd be frustrating, take so long. The knee lift makes it very, very easy. So it's just, I'm just showing you these things for the reason why I chose to use this machine. There's a lot of other reasons, but they're the basic ones. So that's how I'd come around those nice little tight curves. Come back on the roll quilting. And by reducing that stitch length down, I'm getting nice even stitches around that curve. And I love quilting feathers. I just feel so good when I get these done that we've achieved a nice look. So I can come around and come up a big one now. And you'll gain more and more confidence with the more you practice. Don't worry if you're not perfect to start with. Nobody's ever perfect. Run off the line, get your eraser and erase it. So that's just a little bit on the knee lift and reducing your stitch length down. So when I went around that big curve then, like I'm going to do now, I should have stopped and just increased my stitch length back up. Because that, when I did that bigger curve, my stitch length was a little bit too small. So don't be afraid to stop and change things as you're stitching. So now we're going to go on and just do something else different with your feathers, just to give them a different look. I'll just stop there. This one here, I want to show you to add a bit of difference. Up here, I haven't put the line in. Here, I've put a line in so that I can make the feathers look a little bit different. So we're going to start down here, start at the bottom. We'll come around one of these curves. There's two ways we can do this little line in the middle. One, we could lift our foot, we could pivot and we could come in on here. We can stop, we can lift the foot and we can come back out. Lift the foot, come around the next one. Now remember, we're just doing normal sewing. So what I could do here, instead of turning it, I can press, wherever it is, I can press my reverse button and go backwards and come forward, because we're normal sewing. That's how easy it is. It's really, really simple. I'm going to come right up to the top here where I haven't drawn the line. So if I come around here, this big one, I usually don't draw the lines in, but I wanted to put them in there so if you're a beginner, you'll know that you've got a line to stitch on. But as you gain your confidence, you probably won't need the lines. As in, you'll need the lines for the feather shape, but where we're going to go in and put that little spine in the middle of it, you can just turn it around and you could just stitch in any shape you want. You could reverse back out of there. Now if I was reversing back out of there, I'll just use the other finger. We're going to be very cautious. That's not as easy. I'm not stitching on the line at all because I'm using my wrong hand here. But if I chose to do that, where I've gone right off the line, and I come back over this other side, now if I turn this around and I kind of mirror image that, I give the feather another different look. There's nothing wrong, just whatever works for you. Make it work. Make it look good. There's no rules. Just find a way for you to be able to do this and achieve your greatness in quilting. Now we're going to just now work on the design where we drew up used the set F templates, and we've got this design drawn on here. I've used the leaf part of the template and then just a section of it, but I just want to show you some stitching here so you know there's no place to start, there's no wrong place to start. It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to start in the middle, right here. I just want to put my needle back in the centre position because I want it centred. I've got my stitch length on 3. I've still got my pressure reduced to 9, but I'm going to put it up to 11 because I think I'll need a little bit more pressure. I've got on 11, I've locked it in. Going to put my pressure foot down, my needle down, and then I'm going to push my needle up button. And I'm pulling my top thread, and I know that you won't be able to see it, but what I've done is as I pull this top thread, it pulled my bobbin thread, that clear invisible thread, to the top. Because I want that thread at the top. Because I'm starting right in the middle of the block. If I left my bobbin thread underneath, as I started to sew, it'd get all tangled up in the stitches, so we want it to the top. I'm just going to hold my fabric and do a couple of stitches on the one spot. Then I'm going to move forward, do 2 stitches, and then I'm going to hold the fabric and do 2 more stitches on the one spot. That's how I start and finish, because with the fine thread on the top and the clear thread in the bobbin, I'm not going to get it bunching up. Some people tie their threads off, and we might go through that in another one of the episodes. But we'll move on now to these leaves. I'm just going to come around the corners. We're coming up to a really sharp point, so slow down. Right, we're there. You could use the knee lift or lift your pressure foot or just pivot, whichever way you'd like to do. So now there's my beginning threads. I know that they're hard to see, but I'm just pulling them and they're not popping, so I'm going to cut them off. Get them out of the road so they don't get stitched in. Now I'm coming across and I'm doing the other side. Come up, slow down when you get to there, pivot around. So you're just going to work through your design. So I would go through and I'd do the 4 leaves, and then I'd come through and I'd do the centre part of the leaf. Get up to the top, pivot around, and I'm going to stitch right back over that row of stitching. Notice I'm going a bit slower. I'm just watching the needle. And my left foot, my machine is on the highest speed, but my left foot is controlling that speed beautifully for me. So I'd do the 4 leaves, then I'd come back over this row of stitching. Up to this point, one more stitch. Point, lift. Just make your own road map. You know, if you really don't want to stitch over a previous row of stitching, tie your threads off. Some people, you know, like to have it just perfect. That is fantastic. I'm a little bit of I've got to get it done girl, and that's why I use, as I mentioned before, I use what I use because it makes it so much easier for me. So that's how we would continue. You can just keep working through however you want. There's no rhyme or reason to any of the designs. Just find your own road map, work your own road map, and get every line stitched. Like I'm randomly just doing things now. But if I get down to here and come back down, I know that I can confidently stitch back over that previous row of stitching. Nobody will know you've done it. It'll just all blend in. But I just want to show you on the next block, there's something exciting I want to show you because we're going to work with the pressure point just a little bit more. So continue on all of these blocks. And I think once you get the hang of this and you start doing quilting, it'll be very hard to put it down. You'll just keep wanting to do more and more. Now this one here, let me just get the block and show you and explain this a bit to you. This big curve we drew up with one of the curves from the dot to dots. Then we've done random stitching down through the middle. So I just want to show you how I've drawn some of the lines, but then I'm going to show you how to do it without drawing the lines. So we're just going to, once again, we'll do the curves. Start wherever you want. Do the curves. Okay, I'll come over this side. Go up this side. So now to do these little bits, and you can notice I've drawn them on. Hopefully you can see that. This one here I never drawn them on, but I'm going to show you how I'd stitch over the drawn ones and how I do it without drawing them. So I'm going to come down. So you have your options here like we did with the feathers. Lift your foot, come back, press your reverse button, come over. Oops. You could pivot and come back over that. Come down. You know, and you might be happy doing it this way, but there is an easier way. So that's how you could do it there. But if I've stitched down, I'll just come down this other one. So if I've done this side stitching, and then I want to do the fill in. I'll just show you how we do that. So we'll come down. Now what I'm going to do, and this is where it can get challenging, and it's probably maybe a little bit advanced for some of you, but I just want to drop a little bit of this in. This is another reason why I have this machine compared to what other machines would do for me. I'm now going to take my pressure from 11 right down to -11. Now a lot of machines don't do this. This is one of the main reasons. So I'm going to pull it down and it's going to come up to -11. Lock it in. Now when I do that, what I can do is I don't have to turn the fabric. I can stitch backwards. I can stitch forward. I can stitch backwards because I've taken enough pressure off so that I can move the fabric under the needle, but it still keeps my stitches nice and even so long as I move the fabric at the speed of the needle. It's a little bit like free motion quilting, but it's still got a lot more control to it. You will have to experiment with your machine to see if it will do this or not. But it's a game changer. If you can do this, you're going to be able to quilt absolutely anything you want in the future. See how easy that is? So I just wanted to touch on that. We won't be using that a lot in these lessons, in the episodes, but I just wanted to show you some of the main reasons why I invested in what I've got. I wanted to be able to sit here and quilt for hours, do really nice quilting, come out with great results and be really proud of what I do. So that's just a little bit of an insight for you to show you the different things that your machines can do. I can't help you, I'm sorry, show you the adjustments on your machine. It is you reading your manual or going to your local dealer to ask them that. A lot of dealers will tell you you can't quilt like this because they don't understand the technique. But I'm trying to get out there to train everybody as much as I can on what our machines can do. So spread the word, share all of our content with all of your friends, tell them to subscribe to our newsletter so we can get them involved. Watch our YouTube channels. Please join us on our Instagram and our Facebook. Subscribe to those so we can keep you posted because we're going to be doing a lot of things around different parts of the world this year, and we want to involve as many people as we possibly can and teach them our QISS system. Quilting is so simple once you know what your sewing machine can do. So till we come back into episode 10, where I said we're going to do some applique and some other exciting things, happy stitching, happy quilting. Put your messages up there if you've got any issues. We'll be there to help you as much as we possibly can. So from me, Pauline here at PQW, we say thank you and happy quilting for now. Bye.